11, 5, 9 and 20 miles today, 4,
Do you
11,
like it,
17,
I know a
32
school
the
where
day
they teach
before.
chances.
Oh, America's so big. You ever drive
I
through
can take you
Oklahoma
there.
so
Moving up and
fast?
down again. There's no stars in the wall.
Well, it's now that time of the year when you gotta start thinking about your goals. Start going to the gym more. Are you at the gym yet? Only people that are working on themselves can watch this video. My goals are to get 5,000 subscribers by the end of this year, support my wife with our new child, and watch all the movies on this list by the time they come out. Like and subscribe for more videos. Today I'm going through the 10 most anticipated sci-fi fantasy movies that are coming out in 2025, in the order of their release dates. Please let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like to add or be taken away from this list. Captain America: Brave New World. The newest Captain America adaptation releases February 14th, and the plot is that Sam finds himself in the middle of an international incident after meeting with President Thaddeus Ross. He must soon discover the reason behind a nefarious global plot before the true mastermind has his entire world seeing red. Red as in Red Hulk, played by Harrison Ford. I think that this one has the potential to be at least entertaining, especially with the Red Hulk as the antagonist. But there are still also a lot of concerns here. One of the biggest concerns here that people have is that even though Sam Wilson was given the title of Captain America, it seems like he might not be able to fill in those shoes to a worthy level. I mean, he's got some huge shoes to fill replacing Steve Rogers, and it just doesn't feel right. It feels kind of icky. They even delayed the release a full year so that they could do some reshoots and some rewrites. People are also speculating that they might be making this movie more politically driven than it needs to be, which might detract from what's actually good about the movie and make it another stinker like Captain Marvel.
I don't like that name.
If that's going to be the main focus of this movie, then I'm sorry, but they're already doomed to be criticized out of existence here. However, seeing Red Hulk on the screen has some potential to have some pretty good fight scenes. Mickey 17. Mickey 17 comes to theaters on April 18th, and the basic plot is a guy named Mickey signs up to be an expendable employee to go on an expedition to colonize the ice world Niflheim. When he signs up to be an employee, they create clones of this guy so that every time he dies on the expedition, another version of him takes his place. It's a pretty interesting concept. I can definitely see this one being the type of movie that you would want to watch if you're into dark humor and space travel. It's also directed by Bong Joon-ho, who also directed Parasite and won several Academy Awards for that one, so he's a pretty trustworthy director. Even with how good this movie should be, there has still been some setbacks along the way. This film has had a rough journey that I would not wish on anyone to have. Mickey 17 was originally going to be released on March 29th, but was postponed due to the writer's strike. It was then going to be released on January 31st this month, but was suddenly delayed again because Bong Joon-ho wanted to secure the rights to the final cut of the film. And we all know that can get a bit hairy sometimes. This might actually end up being a good thing for the movie since the person who actually cares about this film has full creative control now. Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts comes to theaters on May 2nd, and it's essentially Marvel's take on the Suicide Squad, where you got a bunch of misfit anti-heroes going on missions for the government. And it's actually looking pretty good, so hopefully they can produce something better than what DC did. Something else that drives this movie is that there seems to be a different group of people who want them dead, which is a pretty common cliche, but it works. In my own opinion, I think this one will do a lot better than Brave New World because the characters are funny and they're not trying to use politics to prove any points. I'd be lying if I said there was no problems though. The main thing that a lot of people are getting caught up on is that there may be too many super soldiers in one film. Sometimes when you have characters of similar traits in a film, they can kind of get somewhat washed out and forgettable. I'm not saying that'll be the case for this movie, but Bucky, Alexei, and John Walker all have similar abilities and they're all super soldiers. This is also another one of those movies that was delayed by the writer's strike and caused Steven Yeun to drop out of the movie entirely, so that probably caused some problems too. I am more excited about this one than Brave New World because I did like the Black Widow film where we were introduced to most of these characters, and it'll be cool to see everyone's story expanded upon. Ballerina. Ballerina comes out June 6th and is the 5th installment of the John Wick franchise. Only this one takes place between the 3rd and the 4th John Wick films. It's about a ballerina named Eve. And if you don't know anything about John Wick, these ballerinas are from the same establishment that John Wick received his training from. And these ballerinas are also trained to be a boogeyman of sorts, just like he was. There's not much to go off of in the trailer as far as the plot goes, but John Wick appeared in the trailer, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of a role he plays. Ana de Armas has played a role in heavy action movies before, and she's looking pretty good in her role as the ballerina in this one too. There were some minor concerns floating about that there might not be enough action scenes to make it worthy of a John Wick film. but word must have caught the director's ears because he did some reshoots with some new action scenes. I'm quite glad we have a director here who listens to the concerns and takes action right away, because that's pretty awesome. The success of this movie also probably depends on whether or not they'll be able to expand the John Wick universe even further beyond this, so I would highly suggest watching this movie. How to Train Your Dragon. How to Train Your Dragon comes to theaters on June 13th, and to be honest, I'm not particularly excited about this one, but it is highly anticipated, so it's on the list. Everyone already knows about the story of Hiccup and how he trains his dragon by now, so I won't go into the plot. If there's anything the film has going for them, it's that it's almost 100% accurate to the animation all the way down to the dialogue and character movements, which is actually pretty impressive. The only thing that feels a little fishy to me is that they probably could have at least tried a little bit to find an actress that looks more like Astrid. I mean, congrats to her on getting the role, but seriously? I get that Hollywood is making every film have at least one character of every race in these movies now, but if Astrid was black in the animation, you'd never see a white girl play her character. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, also known as AMPAS, has created a set of rules for diversity and inclusion in movies that want to enroll in the Oscars. And this recently took effect in the last Oscars that we had. In order to be eligible for the Oscars, your film has to include at least one lead role or significant supporting actor from a different ethnic or underrepresented group. Or at least 30% of all actors in the film have to be from an underrepresented group, or the main storyline has to be centered on an underrepresented group. This is a very big problem for the film industry because now the very essence of making an Oscar-worthy film is political. And it's also taking the creative freedom away from all these directors as well. Honestly, I could make a whole video just on this subject, but it's crazy to think of how dystopian this is. 28 Years Later. 28 Years Later comes to theaters on June 20th. And this is the next installment of the 28 Days Later franchise, which I've never seen because I was about 4 years old when it first came out, and my parents don't like scary movies. I also never saw it when I was older because I honestly didn't really know it existed. However, the premise of this one seems pretty promising. It's been almost 3 decades since the rage virus escaped from a biological weapons laboratory. Still living in a ruthlessly enforced quarantine, some have found ways to exist amid the infected. One such group of survivors lives on a small island connected to the mainland by a single, heavily defended causeway, which one of them decides to venture into the dark heart of the mainland. He soon discovers a mutation that has spread not only to the infected, but other survivors as well. I don't know about you, but I think this movie's got some good stuff in here. I don't know what it is, but I really love violent movies. Like, I'm the type of guy that chuckles whenever someone's head gets chopped off. It makes so much sense to me now why Romans had gladiators now, because it is entertaining and they couldn't fake it. When the first trailer came out, people were really hoping that Cillian Murphy would come back as Jim from 28 Days Later. The director confirmed everyone's suspicions and said that Cillian Murphy is not in the movie. However, when I googled the cast for 28 Years Later, Cillian Murphy was the first name that came out and he plays Jim. So either the director's lying or Google's just being dumb. Superman. Superman releases July 11th, and I can tell you right now that this is probably the most anticipated movie coming out this year. And for a good reason. Let's be honest here, Superman has been a shell of his former self for way too long. Zack Snyder's is a pretty decent Superman. The film focused way too much on what Superman is not rather than what he is. Essentially, Superman is the physical embodiment of hope. Even the symbol he wears means hope. I don't think people were feeling much hope when Superman literally just annihilated an entire city just to defeat Zog, only to get him in a chokehold and snap his neck. I can tell right away from the trailer that this new Superman is going to be focusing entirely on what Superman is, which is hope. You can tell from the bright saturated colors and the shots of him actually saving people that this is going to be the type of Superman that everyone has been waiting for. James Gunn has been able to turn the Guardians of the Galaxy into A-list characters, so if he can do that, he can work his movie magic to make Superman great again. Now here is why Superman came out guns a-blazing on the marketing and why everyone needs to talk about Superman right now. This film is running on a budget of $363.8 million, so Warner Bros. Put a lot of eggs in this basket. Basically, if this movie does flop, it'll have the potential to do quite a lot of damage to everyone involved. If you were to watch only one movie this year, then I would choose Superman because there's no coming back from this one if this thing flops. However, it's done such a good job with marketing so far that I'm 99% sure that it'll do just fine. The Fantastic Four First Steps. The Fantastic Four First Steps is coming to theaters on July 25th, and this one could be a real doozy for the future of the MCU. This film is set in a 1960s retro futuristic universe where they gotta protect their little world from being eaten alive by Galactus. There's been a lot of speculation whether or not Robert Downey Jr. will take on his new role as Doctor Doom in this movie. Although it hasn't been confirmed by the people involved, Doctor Doom might be appearing in the mid-post-credits scenes, kind of as a way to set the scene for the new Avengers Doomsday. I think this movie has the potential to be better than a lot of other Disney slop that's been out there these days, and it's got the director of WandaVision running this thing, which is one of the only good Marvel TV shows that Disney has been able to produce. I was a pretty big fan of the retro style of WandaVision, and if you like that, this one's gonna have a very similar vibe. There's been speculation that they might be killing off Galactus in this movie, which wouldn't be very good considering the godlike powers that Galactus possesses. Whatever they do with Galactus could either make or break the movie. One personal concern that I have is that since this is outside of the MCU, I think that they should keep it that way. There's way too many connections that lead back to the MCU now, and it's really starting to take away from the satisfaction of the Marvel movies as a whole. People are starting to get a little sick of the multiverse, and it makes sense why. We go to see Marvel movies for the superhero action it gives, not for some complex Inception plot like the Multiverse of Madness. It's starting to be a little too much, and I think Kevin Feige knows that. That's why he's trying to bring it back to the roots by giving Robert Downey Jr. the role of Doctor Doom and having the Russo brothers back in to direct. Wicked for Good. Wicked for Good is set to release on November 21st, and it will be the second part of the first Wicked movie. I haven't seen the play, so I don't exactly know how this will play out, but what I do know is this one will probably be a huge winner at the box office. The reason is because the first Wicked movie has made a total of $697.6 million at the box office worldwide on a budget of $145 million. From that huge success, they reignited the love from the old fans and generated new fans who haven't even seen the play. And as far as musicals go, the songs were pretty epic. Now that people are already raving about how good the first one is, people are already waiting in anticipation for the second part. Many Wicked fans are actually quite disappointed that they had to make two parts to this story and feel it a little unnecessary. I think that splitting The Hobbit into 3 movies was unnecessary, but making this story into 2 parts based on the intermission is fairly acceptable. I mean, the main problem is that people think that they'll add in a bunch of stuff to fill in the time, but I don't think that'll be the case. We need to remember that we're dealing with 2 different mediums here. The play has a runtime of about 2 hours and 45 minutes, and that includes the 15-minute intermission. But movies have the ability to be quite a bit longer due to the type of shots that they use, the camera movements, and they can control how long a scene can take because of those things. They don't need to add anything extra if they film it right. Avatar: Fire and Ash. As of right now, Avatar: Fire and Ash is set to release on December 19th. And there's not much said about the plot or storyline of the movie, but the antagonist is still probably going to be that Colonel guy since he was rescued by Spider at the end of Avatar: The Way of Water. I'm also deducing that there will probably be some fire and ash involved as well. James Cameron has also said that we will be introduced to a new Fire Na'vi clan, which is supposed to show the darkest side of the Na'vi people, which I'm really excited for. This film is expected to be quite a bit darker and more complex than the other Avatar movies, which leads people to believe that you can't bring your kids to this one, at least not the younger ones. This brought up some concerns among fans because people have kids and they want to bring their kids to this movie, but they probably can't. But I also feel like it could appeal to a wider audience that will bring in more success to the box office. If you've made it this far into the video, then I just wanted to say I appreciate you guys. And leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos. Well, these are the most anticipated sci-fi fantasy movies of 2025. If there's anything that you think that I missed or needs to be added to the list, then swap your thoughts in the comments below. I've swapped my thoughts, and if you want to see my thoughts on Nosferatu, then click right up here, and I'll see you on the other side.